Thank you, everybody. Welcome to Speak Up Monday. We're here in the garden at Tropical Nomad, as usual, episode 497 from memory. So now, for those of you who read the titles, you'll know that tonight's episode is all about giving back. And it's about large companies giving back to Bali, which may come as a surprise to some people, but there are some really good examples of this. And we believe that shining a light on it creates impact, which then creates a follow-on effect. So if you are a large company here in Bali, then you may want to watch this episode and also give back, right? So there's lots of ways to do that. But what I'm going to do, remove my elbow, I'm going to introduce tonight's guest. Ooh. So as I mentioned, big corporations giving back to Bali, and this is episode 497. So from blockchain-powered cultural preservation to major resort-backed museums, this episode explores how big corporations are giving back to Bali in meaningful and sustainable ways. So our guest, sitting to my left, well, I call him Bli, so Bli, brother, in Balinese. Bli Marlowe Bandem shares insights into the Bali 1928 archive, which is phenomenal, a groundbreaking initiative that safeguards Bali's artistic and cultural heritage, and how collaborations with institutions like AYANA's SAKA Museum in Jimbaran are redefining corporate social responsibility on the island of Bali. So discover how art, history, and innovation intersect, and how every business, big or small, can play a role in protecting Bali's living legacy. So we're going to have a little bit more about our guest. He doesn't want me to, but we're going to do it anyway because we can. So, and he's my brother, so it's okay. So Marlowe Bandem is a creative practitioner working at the intersection of microfinance, arts, and culture. He is the co-founder of Bali 1928 Archives, as I mentioned before, a non-profit organization dedicated to the repatriation and dissemination of historical Balinese documents from the 1930s. Marlowe also collaborates with the Quantum Temple, that we're going to talk about tonight, a Web3 platform preserving Balinese cultural heritage through blockchain technology, and serves as an advisor to SAKA Museum, a cultural institution at AYANA, Bali, recently recognized as one of Time magazine's most famous places of 2024. That is great! Woo! 2024! Quick thing about me, because I sometimes forget to do it. Founder Robert Ian Bonnick, founder of PT Karya Life Group, Gateway to Indonesia, comprising 3 award-winning initiatives: RIB and Associates, Speak Up Monday, which is what you're watching now, and yes, Indonesia's #1 entrepreneurship and social impact talk show. Now approaching 500 episodes. This is 497, so for episode 500, we're going to do something special, but I'll let you know what that is pretty soon. We've been awarded #1 Changemaker in Bali by the Nuanu Social Fund, and recognized by the Ministry of Tourism and Creative Economy of Indonesia, Bali Tourism Promotion Board, Forbes Business Council, Founder Institute, and Startup Grind. There's more, but I don't think we need it. Round of applause, everybody, for that long intro. But it was worth it. So, all right, Bli Marlowe Bandem. So, firstly, quick raise of hands. Who knows here what the 1928 Bali archives are? Yeah, good. Sure. One person. This is good. So that's going to be my first question to you. So Marlowe was on the show a couple of years ago. Been on the show, I think, more than that. And as I mentioned, a brother. So Marlowe, let's start here. So 1928 archives. What are they? Why are they important? Yeah,
for sure. So, I mean, before we start, I have to express my gratitude for all of you. There's a number of familiar faces in the crowd, and definitely a lot of new faces, you know, a lot of beautiful faces that will enrich our conversation tonight. And I am very honored and humbled to be in your presence to share a number of stories of what I have been doing for a number of years. And before that, I have to make a confession, you know, more so a disclaimer, because
I heard live confession. I didn't hear disclaimer.
So when Robert, reached out to me a number of days ago, and he mentioned that, I think, brother, it's about time you come back to do Speak Up Monday. And as always, I would definitely say yes to any opportunity to hold a mic and talk about, our dear beloved island. However, when, over the line, Robert mentioned that the theme would be big corporations giving back to Bali. And I have to confess, I misheard. I heard big co-operations giving back to Bali. And honestly, I do feel that
easy mistake to make. I mean, co-operations,
true. No fault on your side, but honestly, I do believe that I like the latter, in contrast to the idea of big corporations, because maybe, just maybe, Bali don't need, more and more, corporations, but more intimate and sincere corporations where people, communities, and definitely companies can come together, work together with shared respect to, definitely the Wali Dwipa, the island of devotion. And with that, we'll talk about a number of initiatives and projects that we have been doing, and to answer your questions about the Bali 1920 archives. Valerie already mentioned, a reminder that this is going to be the starting point. When we talk about the Bali 1928 archives, we do have to go way back, a bit, nearly 100 years ago, and think about the situation or the brand of Bali. So, what is Bali today and what is Bali in the past? So in the 1930s, we do understand that Bali has been praised, like the Bali, the Last Paradise by Hickman Powell, and then you would have Bali, the Island of 1,000 Temples by A.G. Bernard Kempers, and then you would have, the great Prime Minister of India, Nehru, when he first was, when he found himself just, near, at the beach of Sanur Beach, he said that, oh my God, dear Lord, Bali is the morning of the world. And then, as the years go by, the new regime, the Orde Baru, the new order, mentioned that Bali is bersih, aman, lestari, indah. Bersih is clean, aman is safe, lestari is, definitely prosper, and indah, beautiful. And then you would have dear friends like, I'm just naming names, big names. Rick Spencer and Chris Hall from Perth, Western Australia, who did a collaboration, a curatorial about Bali for a visual arts exhibition, and they mentioned the theme was Bali Return Economy. And that created a stir for the community because, there was a misunderstanding. And the idea was that, oh my God, now, we're talking about Bali return economy. Australia is going to return, all the riches back to Bali. But actually, it was not that, It was actually to show the proximity of Australia and Bali and the closeness of these two, destinations, and how Bali was the first experience for a lot of youngsters, the Australian youngsters, particularly Western Australia and Northern Territory, that their first experience abroad, to a foreign country is actually Bali. With that, we do have, Australians singing, I have been, to Bali too. And then another great Australian, Adrian Vickers, he wrote that Bali is a paradise created. Yeah. And then, one of the legendary illustrators in Bali, his name is Tony Tantra, do look it up. In the 1980s in Kuta, he mentioned that Bali is sing can can. Bali, no worries. Yeah. And these are the evolutions of brands that, that have always, shifting, depending on when and who is, telling the story about Bali. And as we know now today, Bali is not only, on the physical realm, it's also on with the algorithm and the digital stream. It's also a platform. It's a product. It's a home, it's a destination. And that really inspired us to do this project called Bali 1928 Archives, because we thought that this would be a good start for us in Bali to show one of the main idea of Bali. Bali is defined by three things. The first one is how the keenness of the Balinese to the spirituality. Yeah. And then how we express that comes to number second. Number two is, this spirituality, this idea of being part of the universe is expressed into diverse forms of arts. However, one thing, definitely for me, that really defines Bali is its open heart. It's the idea that this small island can be a venture for us to come together and enrich the culture of Bali. We have a lot of examples. And in the 1928-29, these two big record companies from Germany named Odeon and Beka expanded their operations to come to Bali because they heard an artistic revolution called Kebiar. Kebiar means as fast as lightning. It refers to a practice of playing gamelan really fast. And how come our elders during the time changed, the perspective of this, majestic, and then the traditional or the old ways of playing gamelan into this new vibrant way, is because that we feel that the arts is a measure or a medium to express healing, wellness. Because as you all know, Bali fell into colonialism 1906 with Puputan Badung and 1908 with Puputan Klungkung. Practically after that, no kingdom, reigned power in Bali, and everything came to the grassroots level. That's why Kebiar came about. The youngsters in North Bali, 1914, 1915, the age of discovery. I can mention Albert Einstein. He formulated the theory of relativity during the time. And then the first jazz recording by Nick La Rocca and Dixieland Jazz Band was recorded in 1917, and also that happened also in Bali. Bali was the place of discovery and creations. So these record companies came to Bali knowing that we have this new, style of playing music, playing the gamelan, and they were so intrigued. So they went around and recorded all of this. The great idea, because they have experience recording all of these symphonies, all of the operas, in Europe, in North America, they feel that with such a local having this particular, artistic revolution, they would definitely collect and buy all of these gramophone records.
Now here's the thing.
Yeah. True.
So as you can see, Blee Marlowe here can tell a story, right? So if I let him go, he'll be an hour without taking a breath, right? But you will be transfixed for the hour, right? So because it's a Q&A, I might need to chime in a couple of times.
For sure.
Right. So look,
free,
so
bro.
1920
Yes.
archives, right? So we've got an idea of what that is. One of the things which I really love about you is that you're a great historian of Bali, and you're able to really link the past with the future and the present, which I think is an extraordinary skill. And you're also able to really bring the history of Bali that is forgotten into the present, right? So just on that forgotten tip, because I think it'll be interesting for people here. So what comes up for you when I ask this question? When you talk about the forgotten history of Bali, what comes up for you? Think of one thing that you'd like to speak about, because I love people to know.
Yes. When we talk about Bali, it's always about continuity in change. We are very lucky. Maybe it's not forgotten. It's just misplaced. We cannot access it. So that is why when we did the repatriation project, to return all of these historical recordings. Come again, they try to sell it to the Balinese, and then why do the Balinese to need to collect or even buy these records? Because if they want to hear a performance or to be part of performance, they just need to go to the hamlet, to the Banjar. They can go to the temple. Not only it's free, it's live, but they can also be part of it. And then urban legend says, on one starry night, the agents of Odian and Beka destroyed all of the remaining records. So that is why these records are very important, to ensure that we do not forget the style or the rise of the Kebiar that really not only change the idea of the progress of the arts and culture in Bali, but also open doors for all of these scholars, these historians, storytellers, scholars that came from all around the world, including Colin McPhee, Jane Bilo, 1931 to 38, and then Miguel Covarrubias with Rosa Covarrubias, 1930 to 34, and then we can go on and on, in terms of these great names. So to ensure that we don't forget, we went around the world years and years to collect, and we were fortunate that we managed to collect with our dear partner Dr. Edward Herbst from City University of New York. It's a project, it's a labor of love. So we decided to create a foundation, a collective that is called Bali 1920 Archive, to ensure again the repatriations of all these recordings, and then we enrich them with films, and then also photographs, and also field research that are made available for free to the public.
How can people access it?
Yep. So we do have a number of portals. The Balinese portal, the Bali1928.net, is currently off because we are going into the second phase. Because for the initial phase, we release the 111 recordings into 5 volumes, including footage of the Bali 1930s film by Colin McPhee, Jane Bilo, Miguel Covarrubias, and then Rolf de Mare from Sweden. And the other website that you can still access right now is www.edwardherbst.net. Everything is available for the public to access.
Thank you. And look, you mentioned before a few things about, and obviously next week is about preserving Balinese culture, and that's what the 1920 archives do. But let's talk about this other project, right, that we spoke about, Quantum Temple, which is using technology, blockchain, to help preserve Balinese culture. So maybe give us a quick intro into what Quantum Temple is, the work it's doing, and why it's important.
So when the Bali 1928 connects us with the past, we also want to connect Bali to the future. So based on the focus of Bali 1928, which is definitely the first one, returning home, actual documents, in digital form. I'll tell you why. Because we, during the time when we started this in 2013, nobody would believe us. You don't have the facility, you don't have the manpower, you don't have the funding to do this for the actual physical items. But we said, this is part of, Bali, and it doesn't only concern Bali, it also concerns the world. So please give us access to the digital material. With that, we did restorations. With the restorations, then we did disseminations. Disseminations, we have a really popular program called Cinema Bali 1928, where we go around with projectors and screens, go to villages, communities, and we screen all the footage that concerns that locality.
Can you repeat that again? Cinema
Bali 1928.
Cinema Bali 1928.
Yep.
Okay.
So that's a program where we are invited. We are open for invitation. It could be a wedding, it could be a seminar, it could be a discussion. As long as there's a crowd, can be 5, 50, 500, who cares? As long as we come together. Why? Number one, we need help from the community, not only for nostalgia, but help us to identify all of the footage, all of the locations, all of the personalities, all of the event that is, related to the footage. And then number two, 1930s is nearly 100 years ago, so we're racing against time because a lot of our elders are no more. We really need primary resources, so that's why. Now, with that, one thing that we understood is that in the digital world, you can prove ownership. So that's why we collaborated with Quantum Temple. Quantum Temple, again, is a Web3 platform for cultural advancement and preservation using the blockchain technology and cryptocurrency.
And Quantum Temple is backed by the Ministry of Creative Economy.
Yes.
Okay.
So our founder, her name is Linda Adami. She's born in Rome, Italy, and she found herself in Bali during the pandemics, and she witnessed, firsthand how the pandemic, the COVID-19, really became a struggle, not only for the world but also for Bali. The tourism was crippled. No tourism, there's no opportunity, and definitely with all the regulations, self-distancing, no coming together, a lot of rituals, not a lot of performance were not performed. And we came together for this idea that we need to find a way to ensure that we have a cultural archive or what's happening today in Bali. So we started with a visual cultural archive, the cinematic take on Bali as the island of paradise, the hustle and bustle of Bali, all the rituals, important ceremonies. And for the first cultural archive, we did 11 visual archive using the non-fungible token technology.
NFTs, non-fungible tokens.
And definitely during the time, NFT was not that popular, because everybody was using it as a platform for speculating, for good fun, as a bragging rights. I do have this slam dunk, from this famous basketball player. I have this really funny meme, that is part of my wallet. But we want, to give an example that in this digital economy, the proof of identity and the proof of stake of one's culture can be done. And we took a bold step. When we talk about Bali in the 1930s, one milestone is the Paris Colonial Exposition 1931, when the performing arts group of Pelihatan and Ubud went to Paris, and performed there for 6 months. Based on that idea, the bravery of our elders, we also took the chance in 2023 on the night, on the eve of Nyepi, or the celebration of the New Year, we launched these cultural archives curated by Stephen Lansing, who is instrumental again in the inaugurations of Suba, or the Water Society, as part of the World Cultural Heritage. And we auctioned 3 of the cultural archives, and we yielded a large sum of return, which comes to the interesting part, to giving back. 40% of every yield in terms of cryptocurrency during time we use the Ethereum blockchain goes back to the community that was involved in the project. So we did one. It's called the Royal Topeng. It's a style that is developed by my father, Marlowe Bandem, and he has this particular style of dancing the king. And we did that. We did the whole 7-minute recording at our home in Singapadu, with live performances of the gamelan, and then we edited into a 30-second, less than 30-second, and it yielded more than 50 Ethereums.
All right, so let me just break it down for a few people. I can see a few people going like, what? What's going on here? So NFTs, non-fungible tokens, just see it as a way of storing value, right? So what Marlowe is saying is that, so if you can convert Balinese art be it in performance, be it a piece of work. If you're able to convert that to this non-funded, this NFT, then what you're able to actually do is you're able to transact this NFT. It's like a collector's item, like back in the days when you had football cards or something, right? But it's electronic. It's not physical, it's electronic. And then that electronic copy of the real thing, you can then transact, right?
Even though you have multiple copies of the actual artwork itself.
Yeah.
But there's going to be only, depending on, how much you would release it, when we did the...
Give me 1 second.
Yep.
So then through the technology, what you're able to do is called a smart contract. So that smart contract is, once you set it up, you can't change it.
Yes.
You can't change it for any. Even if you make a mistake, tough luck, right? And you're able to set it and forget it. So that means then, if I have one of these NFTs online, I'm able to transact using crypto, let's say. What I can do is, if I buy it for $100, let's say that Marlowe was one of the guys who originally put this onto an NFT. He set up in a smart contract, which is automatic and you can't change it, that of that $100 value, $50 would go to a charity. Let's say Desiree Shoes, right? $50 will go to Desiree, right? $30 will go to the artist, and $20 will go back to his company for the trouble of doing it. So basically what that means then is that for every one of these NFTs sold, which it can be many, that same contract will be honored automatically. So it's a great way to, again, what Marlowe's saying is that, by preserving Balinese culture, he's able to put that performance, one of a kind, onto, let's say, an NFT, record it onto an NFT, and then what then he's able to do is to then sell that to people who are interested in that, in the same way as football cards back in the day of your favorite player would go for lots of money, right? Because it's a collector's item. And then from that, the proceeds, they can set it up from the very beginning that the proceeds go back to a Balinese charity, be it the artist, number one, let's say. Number two, maybe it will go to a percentage of that will go to a Balinese organization, and then a percentage will go back to him. You can set it up exactly how you want it. You can do 100 different denominations if you want. Wouldn't suggest you do that, but that's essentially what he's saying, right? And then you're going
definitely. Couldn't explain it better, bro. Thank you. So the idea was, with the smart contract, we have the divisions of proceeds to the communities, to the producers. But another aspect of it is that we have what we call the impact fund. So the impact fund, 5% of all proceeds, and especially, considering that when we launched it, it was at Atelier de Lumière, the House of Lights in Paris. 140 projectors, from ceiling to the floor. It's all about Bali, all of the 11, visual archive. That really, brought back the idea of Bali. And since then, we keep continuing this. Now we have branches. We have another of offerings, services, and products, and we launched what we call the Quantum Temple Passport. So you can onboard, yourself using Web 2, Web 3. There's so much flexibility right these days, and wherever you go, you can donate. You can. First of all, it's all about your digital footprint. You can track not only where you have been going, when you have been, visiting the destinations, but you can also track your contribution based on how the experience, during your visit. That's the idea. We want that, visitors, people, take time, interact more with Bali, really focus on the community-based aspects of, cultural tourism in Bali.
So then you're able to assign like an electronic passport, not a physical passport. And just like a passport physically, not maybe so much now, but 10 years ago, wherever you go, you get a stamp in your passport. That's where you've been, that's where you spent time. What he's saying is it's a similar thing, but it's electronic.
Yes.
Right? So you have this electronic passport. passport from Quantum Temple,
Yep.
and all the places that you visit, you're logged as being visiting those places.
And coming back again to the blockchain, everything is transparent, it's immutable, and people can really know your contribution to the places that you are visiting. That's why Quantum Temple is not only focused in Bali.
Yeah.
We Linda, I really admire big dreamers, yourself included, because it allows people to be part, to contribute to achieve that big dream.
Yeah.
And now Quantum Temple is already in Argentina, we're already in Panama, Peru, working with indigenous communities. Next year we're going to Pekanbaru. We just had a session with the Aura farming kids, like 2 weeks ago. So now we're doing what we call the Mirai Studio tour. So Mirai Studio is open for public, and you can be part of this journey to really learn about culture, communities, and then at once contribute, and this all goes back to the idea of Desa Kalapatra. I'm not a big firm believer, a supporter of Trihita Karana, the three methods of prosperity. But, I stand my ground when it comes to Desa Kalapatra. Desa means space, Kala means time, and Patra means circumstances. So it teaches us, especially in terms of giving back, it teaches us that it's all about context. So that's why that is a strong point of Bali. When you give back to the land gives back. If you give back to the community will flourish. We can work together. So this is the conception. And again, if we want to connect this again to the idea of the cycle of karma pala, what goes around comes around. It's all about transforming from relations based on it's giving back in terms of context, but also giving back in terms of relationships, being aware with integrity. So for all of you, that have this big vision, this big idea to contribute, to enrich not only, your livelihood, your dreams, do make sure, that Bali is here to also enrich, that experience. And we can go back, to the ideas of, again, Bali 1928.
One of the things, so in about 5 minutes we're going to have questions, right? So if you've got a question, start to think about what that might look like. So just want to deal with this part now about big corporations giving back, right?
Yeah.
So you already mentioned it, but I want to go a little bit deeper into it because it might be difficult for people to grasp. So again, I think I've mentioned it quite a lot, but that's okay. When we say Trihita Karana, who knows what it means? Just raise your hand nice and high. Yeah, good. Who knows? Who doesn't know what it means? It's okay. Yeah, there's a few. Thank you, my brother. A few that are just hiding it. So, as a Westerner, right? So I'm not Balinese, or they call me Pat Nyoman these days. But anyway, Nyo and Robert. One way which I tend to explain it when I have clients which are corporations, right? So how I explain it to them is like this. So please apologize if I make any mistakes. So obviously, as you mentioned, 3 roads to prosperity, harmony, happiness. So this triangle. And then at the top is this human to God, culture, customs, tradition, religion, and so on. Over here, human to environment, regenerative systems, policies, practices, and so on. And over here, human to human, prosperity or dignity. So how I explain it to them, because again, most people think that corporations giving back is I'm giving back in money. No, not only that. The way that corporations, that I instruct my clients to give back is in honoring Trihita Karana in Bali, because then it becomes a regenerative and a conscious business. So I'll give you an example, right? So if imagine 1, 2, and 3, you have a score out of 10. So number one, if I'm a business, initiative, or project, what is my impact on human to God, culture, customs, tradition, religion? Give myself a score. Is there something which I can improve? Do I honor, the spiritual tendency and the holidays, the ceremonies of Bali when it comes to my staff, when it comes to my team? Do I honor the fact that I'm here in Bali and I do offerings, either myself or one of my team on Balinese on my behalf does offerings every day? Is it something else? So you start the process thinking. So when we come down over here to human to the environment, then the simple one is what am I doing with my business, project, initiative, the waste? Right? What am I doing? Am I just throwing it in the river? What am I doing with it? What responsibility am I taking? And I give myself a score out of 10. And be honest, if I'm a 2, how do I get to a 3? So therefore now it's saying, well, okay, so how can I give back to the environment? And again, one client, for example, is building a pyrolysis factory, which takes all the plastic from the village that they're basically in and turns that plastic back into oil and gives that back to the village. For example, I'm not saying that every company is in a position to do that, because quite a bit of capital, but that's what they're able to do. For some, it may be less, and again, small things, large things, big things. And then human to human prosperity, dignity. So what are we doing here? To create a sense of harmony with the people in the area where the business, project, or initiative lives. What are we doing? Are we, for one of my clients, for example, is setting up a school.
Sure.
Right? In here is helping, not setting up, because that's duplication, is collaborating with a local school and is helping them to grow, right? Is helping them to better do their vocation as a school, right? Another one of my clients, what they're doing is that when it comes to micro businesses, they're helping locals set up micro businesses. So they're also creating and generating an income, from the work which is being done, right? Which is again. I'm just giving you an example of for me personally, how I feel that corporations can give back to Bali in that sense, right? And obviously, Trihita Karana is for the person as well, right?
For sure. Yeah, we definitely, if we really want to elaborate it more, it relates to the 5 principles of the Panchasrada. So we believe in a higher being, a bigger power than ourselves, the Brahman. And then we believe in the Atman. The Atman is the spark that connects us with the universe. And definitely you would have the idea of karma pala, the fruits of action, bad or good. And then definitely we believe in punarbhava, or reincarnation, this cycle of learning and enriching oneself. And at the end, what we want, as again, same with Trita Karana, is the idea of moksha, or the ultimate liberation when everything aligns with the universe. Yeah. So, one thing that for me, especially in the discourse where we're also talking about the digital realm, we do need to consider, this new kalapatra, this new circumstances of new times. Yeah. So we are defined on what we access. There's a lot of data streams, algorithms, and which comes back to which Bali that we are talking about. Yeah. But again, the element of time is necessary. Yeah. So, which led us, to the idea of SAKA Museum. Nagata Atita Wartamana. Past, present, and future are intertwined. Yeah, we speak about Bali 1920 and reconnecting us with the past. We talk about Quantum Temple as the promising future. But what about the present? We found that answer when we were reached out by this big, resort, this holding, that, in simply put, the idea is, not only me, we had a big team, that is backing this project.
And this is AYANA?
Yes.
So which is a corporation?
Yes, true.
Okay. Another way to give back?
Yes, in Jimbaran. And the principals came to us and said that, let us prove that Bali is beyond bikini, beers, and beach. We want an authentic way to connect to the world. We understand that, there's a lot of motivation, a lot of, stimulus to come to Bali, ego or eco, all is fine, It comes back to the space, time, and the circumstances, but the idea, this vision that we have a timeless culture that needs to boldly reimagine. That was the challenge. Let us reinvent how we do our storytelling to all our dear friends that come to Bali. It took us, the team, the consultancy, It was me, Alvita Chan, Bruce Carpenter, Marlowe Bandem, Farah Wardani came together, and we had to really, assess, coming back from experience, expertise on how to accommodate this idea of, timeless culture boldly reimagined. We came back to the aspect of time. We went back to the calendars. It was so lovely when we had the introduction. It was mentioned about the Wariga. The Wariga stems from the Wuku calendar, the 210-day calendar that comes from the calculation of the 30 weeks times the 7 days that we believe in Bali. The Wuku calendar doesn't have anything to do with the cycles of the moon and the sun. That's the first thing. We looked into that, and then we said, we should look, the correlation, in terms of astronomy, the stars, and then we researched what we call the lunisolar calendar or the SAKA calendar, and then with that we found the months, the 12 months that are really important. The first month is the 9th month, See again, time is such an abstract concept. It's relativity, as the great Einstein mentioned. When you say January, we say March as our first month. And what happens during the 9th month? We have the Balinese Day of Silence or Nyepi. For us, for SAKA Museum and AYANA Bali, we believe that Nyepi is the best time to connect yourself, to connect yourself with your environment, and definitely yourself with your divines. So we focus on the idea of Balinese Day of Silence, the Chaitra Masa, the 9th month. And as part of a theme for a museum, that is so flexible, because we're only talking 1 month, among the 12, the other 11 months. And then we found the relationship. After the 9th month, we have the 10th month, which we called Kadasa. And what happens with Kadasa? This comes with the Wuku calendar, because it's the time of the biggest harvest festival in Bali, which is celebrated at the Ulundanu temple in Batur. So we found these connections that became, the focal point of our curatorial. Nyepi is only one of a kind in the world. We would celebrate 31st of December, in all glee, in all happiness, in your own way, with music, with noise, with coming together. You go places, like there's no other tomorrow. But every new moon of the 9th month, we show in Bali, including you too, all of you, that we know how to party, but we also know how to rest. And we rest with Father Sky and Mother Earth. That is why it's so important to, like in music, you would have silence, that actually gives more meaning to the composition itself.
you know, just as I did promise, the questions would be coming, because the thing about this is that we could talk for a long time, right, and enjoy it as well. So questions. So you have a microphone here. So you have a question. Just raise your hand. Remember, you've spoken on these mics already, so close to your mouth. Remember also that if you want to, you know, plug yourself, that's cool, because you've come this way. So the least we can do is give you an opportunity. It might be, hey, I'm from X, Y, and Z company, and then go straight to your question, because then more questions, more value that we can exchange. So just to fill in a few blanks, so SAKA Museum is in Jimbaran.
It's at the vicinity of AYANA Resort.
Great. So you go through AYANA Resort. I went there yesterday to check it out. It is phenomenal, really. I'm without words. But the words that I can use is that it's all senses experience for you to savor and for you to learn about Bali.
Oh, that's so sweet, you know.
Right? There's interactive aspects to it, so you're not just an observer. There's aspects there where you can watch mini films and mini movies which update you about that particular aspect of Balinese cosmology and so on. There's also, what I found really helpful, is like, you call them brothers and sisters, right? Which is right up my alley. But these are helpers. So when you're walking around, you know, I was walking around one part of it, and I was looking at the Subak system, you know, and this young man, I think Wayan, came up to me and said, "Look, sir, yes, we're about to start a movie."
Oh my God.
I said, huh? He goes, yeah. And he went into detail about what the movie was about. So I kind of followed him around and took off my shoes and went into this small auditorium.
Yes.
And there was this beautiful movie in which you were narrating, and you were also in it as well. So these sorts of experience, and that was level 1, as in the floor physically. So there's 3 levels. And each level has got something different, which I won't go into. I don't want to spoil it for you. And then also, it's just a beautiful way in which it's done with lighting, with the feeling of space, and also, you know, some of your 1928 archives are also there. There's a knowledge room, a knowledge center, which again has got historical data about how Bali was formed, and very important information of which you provided. I understand. That's what he told me. Again, so it's a fully inclusive, and now you can spend an hour or 2 there, or you can spend a week. You can choose. But really worthwhile having a look. If this conversation, whether you're online here or offline, definitely worthwhile having a look. Going to Jimbaran on the grounds of the AYANA. You book it online, by the way, and thoroughly worth it. Thoroughly enjoyed, and I'm yet to submit a review. Now, questions, just raise your hand. Over here.
Before we go to questions, I just want to update you just one minute.
I knew you can do that.
So the SAKA Museum was open for public July 2024, and since then we have amassed a number of recognitions, a number of accolades. We received the Kyoto Global Design Award, for the interior, and then we were named one of the most famous places by Time Magazine in 2024. You know, and you know, it's a representations of, you know, exterior, interior, and also content. When we talk about the content, you know, the overall content, which relates again to time, Desa Kalapatra, just in 2025, and we definitely need your support, because we are already named one of the most beautiful museums by Prix Versailles that has a relationship with UNESCO. So on 4th of December this year, they will select, you know, the prize winner, the most beautiful museum in the world, you know, with, you know, a number of other accolades, you know, most beautiful airports, ports, and then resorts and everything. But to have Bali to be put on a map, you know, with this, you know, ease of communication, ease of connections, a backing with, sound financial support and collaborations between communities, corporation, and then the whole ecosystem, including the government. It really shows that Bali is worth fighting for. Bali is worth, giving back to. And it doesn't have to necessarily in terms of money, funds, time. Definitely, that's the common way of giving back. But feel free, to become a mentor, to share knowledge, to give access. And I think I've been here twice with Quantum Temple and also the Bali 1928 archive. One thing that SpeakuP Monday, with you on the mental, is that you are not shy and you are not how do you say that, pelit, you don't keep your network to those who are here, to who those are online. And definitely again, I'm really looking forward for future collaborations with all of you. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you, Brother Marlowe.
Thank you.
Marlowe Bandem. All right, Sister Tangelina.
Yeah, please.
So I'm overjoyed and really thrilled that I made it to this SpeakuP Monday. And
Pleasure.
so our enterprise is Dharma Ninja Imports, and we represent underserved artists in Bali, and we do this because we're really passionate about preserving the culture of Bali through its artisans, and then connecting the buyers with the original artists, and their stories. So the work you are doing is extremely important, and Bali has been touching my life since I was young. I can remember hearing gamelan music at the big, hippie music festival that I grew up going to in Oregon.
Yep.
Something called the Oregon Country Fair, and Gamelan 5. And I know now I'm meeting these people who are part of that. So my question to you is there's a couple things that I was trying to understand, and I think I may have had a misunderstanding originally, which is one, that Balinese culture hasn't officially been colonialized. That was my impression. But I heard you say that there was a colonization that happened back in the 20s or 30s?
In the early 20th century.
And then my second question, and you can elaborate on that, but my second question is, was there ever a point in time that the Balinese people, the common people, were really keeping track of their wariga, their timekeeping, and because it's a complex 3-calendar system as far as I understand, was that something that eventually became lost, or was it just always only kept by a very few Balian type people?
So I think what we're going to do to make it a little bit more interesting, wrong word, but in a minute you'll understand. So for you, my brother, we'll break that down into 2 questions. So we just do one at a time.
Yep.
Yes.
And then see if you can keep your answer to 2 minutes.
Okay.
All right. So question number 1, then repeat question number 2.
Yep. I mean, definitely, not only Bali, but the whole Nusantara, the archipelago was under Dutch colonialization during the time. And what made Bali so different is because the Puputan, the battle to the end. Yeah. There's a great saying by the Cokoda Mantuk Ringrana, the king of Badung during the time, who led the procession to greet, the cannons, to greet all the gunfight. I mean, the gunpowder, which is brought to Denpasar during the time. And he mentioned one thing: mati tan tumut pejah. The body can be destroyed, but the spirit and the struggle is forevermore. Yeah. So with that, it became such a story during the time, because one of the greats, the Winyan Otonyanyun Kam, a visual bar from the Netherlands, was there to witness, the aggression, the attack, and he wrote actually that it was not a battle, but it was a massacre. That really became a critique to the colonial powers during the time by, the government Netherlands government during the time, which then came to the idea that Bali was protected, in terms of what we call the Bali sharing, open up immigration, and then irrigation, immigration, irrigation, education. That really gave a different, idea of Bali, to the foreign world. And then when you talk about the Wariga, actually it's not lost, it's enhanced, because masters like Bambang Gede Rawi really made it into the Balinese calendar that we know today. Bapak Abe Simpen, there's a number of scholars that intertwine, the auspicious and the inauspicious days to the Gregorian calendar. Yeah. And again, what we have done at SAKA Museum, because we focus on the calendars, not only the SAKA calendar, not only on the Pawukon calendar, not only on the Palalintangan. Palalintangan is the zodiac calendar, and then also we have the Pelindon calendar, the calendar that concerns the world phenomena like earthquakes. What would it mean, if it happens during this month or the other month. And what we did was we created applications for that. I hope you had a try.
I did.
Yep. Because we really want to bridge the idea of the knowledge itself, not in terms of the practical use. That's easy. Just take the calendar. It's fine. But we want to show that our elders have been really experts in arithmetic, in modulus, in understanding the 10 overlapping weeks that we have, from the Ekawara 1-day week to the Dasawara, the 10-day week. That confuses a lot. But when you have that combinations, that becomes what we call Wawaran, the combinations of days that has its own energies, you would find logical reasons why Bali, our elders, focus on agriculture and the seasons. So that's an invitation for you to come to SAKA Museum and definitely have a try and look into the intertwining, of the physical calendars into the digital world.
So 2 things there. One, I'm pretty sure we went way over the 2 minutes. Like, I think 2 minutes ended when he started speaking, but it's so interesting. How can you stop him? That's number one. Number 2, I think you had number 2 or 3.
So yeah, thank you for.
There was a number 3?
No. I was joking, because I know she has another one.
For sure, please.
She knows it too. That's why she's laughing. I know. I can see, can sense it.
Well, I don't want to hog all the time, but I'm absolutely going to SAKA Museum.
Thank you.
There's no doubt. You mentioned an application, and maybe we'll just talk later.
Yep.
But so back, let's say pre-modern times, was there ever a time that the common Balinese person knew the calendar and was in cycle with its rhythm and aware?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, definitely. Not only with the almanac or the tika, that we have what we call a tika. Tika could be made out of wood, out of cloth and everything, but it shows the 210-day cycle. And it's an agricultural region, so definitely everybody would understand and know about it. When we did the application, my team and I, we went to Tegalalang. We met with Pak Made Ada, really famous for making these big giant, Garudas, for corporations, for the government. I went there to say hello because he's already aging. And then I asked him, because he's really good with wood. And I said, Bapa, ngelah tika, do you have any tika? And he was like suddenly surprised. Like, what do you mean? Do I have tika? For sure. But my question is, why do you need a tika? Because you just can, just read the calendar. And I said, no. I'm trying to learn. I want to understand it by myself. Our team needs this. You know what he did? He called one of his grandsons, took him a ride on a motorcycle. Half an hour passed. He came back. He brought me 2 tika with a message. Once you succeed and complete your mission, do return back this tika. So there's this strong philosophy that you cannot buy everything in Bali. You have to earn it. And we took our time. We went around and learned. And after completing the application, we had friends coming to really verify everything. I'm hoping one day SAKA Museum would release this to the public, give licensing to the community, because we do understand the younger generation has their world on their phones.
Basically. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, any other questions? Just raise your hand. Yeah, just in front here. Yeah, Desiree. Yeah.
Ooh.
What are your thoughts on all of the development and how much Bali has changed, on the coast here?
Yes. I just mentioned that to Rob, Man, it's been a while since I've been back to Canggu, it's definitely surprised, but as you can see now, with the digital technology, everybody are aware. Everybody has this voice. Everybody has this platform, to say if something is bad, something is good. And then it makes a communication and a dialogue. We're lucky for that, Again, continuity and change, we cannot live, in this idyllic time because paradise, we create our own paradise. It would not be the same paradise that has been seen by Gregor Kraus when he went around with his camera and taking pictures of market scenes of big banyan trees, Because in March 1928, Franklin Price Knott from Ohio, photographer, came and he definitely saw a different thing. He invited the Balinese to his photo studio, and they did. We do believe that what was published with the National Geographic magazine in 1928 was the first photo studio in Bali. And then you would have Covarrubias in 1930. He saw a completely different Bali. Charlie Chaplin came and he said to Walter Spies and also Covarrubias, when are you gonna show me the real Bali? Yeah, this is Bali. Yeah, it's how now it begs, our contribution. So, we have a program, we have a community program. Feel free to join. It's called Susur Suba. Suba, the water society, the ancient order of Bali, is under immense pressure. Rapid land transformation, the lack of youngsters wanting to become farmers, pollution, not many incentive. So how can we go there and justify that? No, you have to be farmers. It's part of the world culture, UNESCO World Heritage. Now we have to find, again, Desa Kala Patra, changing space, changing times, new circumstances. Maybe not use the rice fields as, big developments, but maybe we can find a way for jogging tracks. It's good for the physical, good for the mind, and then people can, along the way, bring their own, bin or bags, and just also be part of the community that, cleans up the rivers, the irrigation. So I think definitely surprised, but don't be surprised on the efforts that we can do if we come together.
One more question, if I can. How would you explain the level of, like you mentioned, pollution, but like trash, like for an island such as Bali, where there's so much respect for nature, but then there's just so much trash?
Yep. So I think there's a gap of understanding. Yeah. The transitions of organic waste to pollutants these days. Yeah, we are so blessed. There's a lot of communities, a lot of collectives that are doing great. We need to do more outreach, educational programs, not for the youngsters. The youngsters are smarter than us, but this is for the elders, for the society, for the communities. People that are responsible for temples, especially water temples, they need experts, water experts, biology experts, to really test the water. Is it really that pure and clean for the water blessing ceremonies? These are the initiatives that we need to push. It's not nostalgia, it's not romanticism. We don't want, it's something, it's spiritual, definitely, yeah. But we want something that is regenerative, the idea. And we have to definitely work together. And we have a lot of examples for that,
One of the things, as I untie the cable from my foot, big foot, is because there's been 497 of these, right? And Balinese, Javanese, Indonesians at large, as well as foreigners from all different parts of the world, right? So I draw attention to two. So one is a guy called Janur Yasa, right? So Janur, one of CNN heroes for Plastic Exchange Bali, right? And he was back on the show 2 or 3 months ago. You'll find him at Ekawood in Gianyar. If you want to find him, Ekawood in Gianyar. So Plastic Exchange, it was this during COVID, people suffering, right, as you mentioned before. So he came up with an idea, quite simple, of if you bring inorganic waste to a central point in your village and we weigh it, and whatever that weight is, we'll give you that value in rice, right? Okay. But what people don't necessarily realize, first off, just again relating back to what Marlowe said, is that it wasn't really about plastic exchange. It was about a martial artist approach to changing habits. What do I mean by that? As a martial artist, you try a new move, you learn, you do it maybe 100 times. Yeah, vague memory of it. You do it 1,000 times, you remember it. You do it 10,000 times, it's muscle memory. So what Janur was really trying to do at the village level, because you have to understand, and you can help me out some other time, wrappings, right? So it was rice, organic. So I eat, I put it, it decomposes. Plastic came in, it doesn't decompose, but I'm still doing the same action. So buy, use, dump. What he was trying to do was buy, use, sort. Because trash, when it's sorted, has value. When it's all clumped together, organic, inorganic, it's hard to derive value. So plastic exchange he was saying was at the village level, if you handle plastic 4 or 5 times a day, then after a week, you come up with a number, getting towards 100, getting towards 1,000, getting towards 10,000, where it now becomes muscle memory. That's one part of it. The second part of it is our brother Marlowe here. So one of the reasons why I love this man, apart from calling him Blee, he's my brother, is that he really encapsulates, again, we had Malati on last week, Malati Wason, who was Bye Plastic Bags, right? Wonderful, beautiful woman, great, love her, right? What Marlowe's able to do is to bring Balinese history, culture, spirituality, cosmology, all of it together and bring it into the present moment. But doesn't stop there. But then he's able to also bring that to the future by fusing it with technology, blockchain, and so on and so on and so on. So what I received from his answer before was Subak is in trouble. It's a big challenge, right? And when you look at Subak, it's not just this, it's the stars constellate, like planting rice based upon like solar. It's a whole nother level. So what he's saying is that there's a dynamic element that Bali has always had, is what I'm getting. You can help me out here. Mm-hmm. So it is about whatever is in the time of using what is available, based in culture, that doesn't change, to basically find a new solution to a challenge or a problem, which he was saying is about, and he said it 3 times, let's do this together. In other words, let's leverage our different skill sets to come up with a solution. Over to you.
So when we did the Suba, the Ancient Order of Bali exhibition for SAKA Museum, which concerns the 10th month, as a intertwining season to Kasanga, That's true. That's the idea. We're in trouble, but let's learn, where this trouble comes and how we can manage this. So we went to the source. We went to the Supreme Water Temple at Pura Ulundanu Batur. We requested access to the knowledge, to the mentorship, and we were allowed to be part of any ceremony that concerns Dewi Danu or the goddess of the lake. So we understood the power of self-sacrifice.
So Dewi Danu, so as I understand it, and help me out here, so Bali was formed as a big mountain,
Mount Batur.
Split into two. Batur was taken by a gentleman, you can tell me his name, and then the smaller fragment was Mount Batur.
Yes, the Mount Agung and Mount Batur.
Thank you.
The representations of the the masculinity and femininity in
there
Bali.
you go.
So
when he says Mount Batur, it has extraordinary significance in Bali.
Yes, because that's the source of water in Bali that runs through all the irrigation system. So we understood. We joined one ceremony where we had to go up the mountain to these 3 caves, and just wait, and welcome the tirta or the holy water, from the cave itself. It took us like half an hour, 1 hour just to wait of every single drop of water. That is an idea, not only in terms of philosophy, but also reality, that water is scarce. Pure water that comes from these caves. And then we took it up, we took it down the mountain, and then we mix it with other sources of water that was used for the ceremony, for the holy tirta, for whoever prays, and also for the suba. And then we found out that it was not even called suba back in the days. It was called pasihan. Pasihan means the seas, the samudra. Those who are blessed with the life-giving power of water by the goddess of the lake. So that's why, every celebrations of Ngusaba Kedasa, 300 plus, pasihan returns back all the yields of the harvest to show. And there's a number of, really, mesmerizing ceremonies that come to that, as a sample, as a start, go through our multimedia Suba Ancient Order of Bali exhibition.
So as you can see, when you ask a question, not only is it not answered, but we go on a journey somewhere else, which is so interesting, and then the question is eventually answered. That's kind of how it works with us too. I'm just noticing a trend. Just telling the truth. Any other questions that anyone has? Yeah. Okay. So we're going to begin to wrap up, right? So there's a few things that I want to add to this. So the title tonight was about corporations giving back to Bali, right? And look, we have obviously spent a lot of time on AYANA. Well, we spent some time going through the 1928 archives, then going through Quantum Temple, and I think these offerings are really important. And then obviously we came to AYANA and SAKA Museum, which is phenomenal. So that was by way of alliteration. So just to pull some, not names out of a hat, but some of the people that have been on the show before. So there are a number of corporations which are doing incredible things in Bali. So, I mean, you look at places like Nuanu, that some of you have already... Has everyone been to Nuanu, by the way? Just double checking. Yeah, cool. Out of that, we had on the show a guy called Roger Hamilton, who's building the Genius City in Nuanu as well. We have companies, such as Sensatia. If you look at Sensatia and what they're doing for their staff and their team, and how they vertically integrate into the villages, you will probably have a little tear in your eye. They do it extremely well. right? And there are a number of others on the show, which I'm happy to give you more examples of that we've had over the years. But again, the point for this one, as you know, SpeakuP Monday, Destination Indonesia, I've spent about 5 or 6 years working with King Erawan of Purianya Krambatan, which is in Tabanan. 20 or 30 ceremonies, events over the years with thousands of foreigners. I've learned so much from lontar ceremonies all the way through to cremation, and so much about Balinese culture that it's mind-blowing. So one thing which I would probably stress and reach out to people here is that if you are watching this from overseas or watching here from Bali, support your local village, support your local pura, support your local museums. If it is SAKA, great, go. But every area has its own thing. I mean, next week, as we mentioned before, there's Tommy and Tangelina, talking about how Dharma Ninja Imports is helping to preserve Balinese culture through its artisans, and there's a very real and present challenge that they're facing with ancestral land. So next week we're talking about that. And over the years, we've done our very best to highlight, shine light, spotlight Balinese culture, because not only something which I love and feel incredibly honored to have a chance to communicate to other people, but also what it's taught me about myself and life in general, right? And I speak about this in different events that I do and so on. So I'm going to leave you a last question, and then I'm going to talk a little bit more. So the last question for you is there anything that you would like to either reiterate or mention, considering that the title is Co-orporations Giving Back to Bali? Or is there something else which you think, this story I really, really, really want to share, because I think it's something that I want to leave people with? So you've got about a minute or two to think about what that is, and then you can go for it. So next week, as I mentioned, it is Dharma Ninja. So come if you want to know about a real story that's happening right now, and how you can contribute, help, support, or just listen, right? So that's next week's show. Same place, same time, 6 o'clock here at Tropical Nomad. Now we have episode 500 coming up. So this is 497. So it's about 3 or 4 weeks. We're going to do something special for it, which I'm going to announce. Not yet. But it's really cool what we're going to do. So just keep your eyes out for that one, but it will be quite large, and we're going to have a lot of fun doing it, and I think you're going to get a lot of value from it. And I just want to finally thank our brother Guzman. Please give him a round of applause. He's by himself. He does it all. Right, a round of applause for yourselves for coming in person. Really appreciate you coming in person. Yes, round of applause. And remember, when you heard people speak before, so I guarantee you that there's people here that want to connect. So don't feel embarrassed. Don't feel like, oh, I can't say hello to this person, because you can, right? That's the reason why we did that little game, that little Q&A in the beginning with you, because there's someone else here that, even outside of Marlowe, that you'd love to connect with. Maybe it's Renee over here with what she does. Maybe it's Tangelina with what she does. Or again, one of the beautiful people here, Desiree, and a vegan brand. Susanna figuring out what it is she wants to do, right? The men's group over here, right? So please take the time. Jakarta sister over here, looking for a new digital enterprise. Good on you. So just go for it. Don't delay after the photo. So finally, brother
Yes.
Bli,
Yes.
Marlowe Bandem, over to you, brother.
Thank you, brother. One prominent and important name that I have to mention to close is Ida Pranda Madesidemen. He is one of the greatest sage that we have in Bali. He's from Sanur, and he has envisioned this. He has envisioned this all. He has seen this, but he also gives a solution. He wrote in Geguritan Salampah Laku, the way to conduct. Tongelah karang sawah, karang awake tandurin, guna dusun ne keanggo ring desa-desa. In the absence of land to cultivate oneself with the seeds of knowledge so we can become fruitful for others. Ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, Matur Suksema, I render my heart to you in its entirety. Matur Suksema.